talk about Christian ideals and sometimes how they are used to run cover for hate. Gotta do this. Hate to do it. And I know people are, the opinions of Boosie and his anti-LGBT stuff is well known for a couple of years and all of that. And people are he doesn't shy away from hateful rhetoric when it comes to this.
Yeah.
Of course, you guys also know Boosie is a son of Baton Rouge. He is one of the people who put Baton Rouge on the map. I'm not going to do a whole thing, but if you're from there, all I'll say, but if you're from there, there's always a certain connection and a feeling that you have to him, and somebody who I knew in high school and knew his brother and the whole nine. So it never feels good, just to be honest with you. It never feels good to watch him when he's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't feel good. It's McKinley, all of that. There's a connection. I just gotta be honest with you. It never feels good. But this part of it right here, we had to address this on the podcast, and we have to talk about what this means for people and why this is so particularly dangerous. He was on Carisha, please. Carisha, please. You talk about her a little bit later too. God damn, it's just up for people. It's up.
And it should be. Let's start holding people accountable.
In this, he was at this Road World, which I was not at this year. Interesting. It is.
Sorry. I don't know if I helped.
Young Miami asked Boosie about his daughter, who is openly gay, and how that intersects with Boosie's really anti-gay sentiments that he's put on the internet and in his public persona for some years. And his answer to this is as bad as it gets.
So when your daughter came out and told you she was gay, it was nothing. I mean, she still can't bring her situation to our house. My daughter's grown. Well, why is she grown? Because I don't want it to contaminate her other. It's a generation we raised. I don't want her to get contaminated to her other 6, 7 sisters who look up to her. I want them to bring me grandchildren the right way.
Yeah, Boosie crazy.
If I want grandchildren the right way, that's what I'm going to stand on. You know, if I don't want my other little girl to look at that and say, what's that, Daddy?
Contaminated.
To somebody she looks up to, it's not going to come around. My grandpa didn't let it. My daddy didn't let it. And I didn't let it. I just hope the one under me, when they take this throne, they don't let it. Because that's not what our family believes in. Like you say, we Southern Baptists. You know, I love me and my daughter relationship like this. But when she understands everything, she know Daddy don't go, she know. But that's what she chooses to do. But she know we don't go, we don't go for that.
Okay. He's talking about his daughter. Her name is Poison Ivy. Saying that she cannot bring her partner to his house. Doesn't want her, should I say, to contaminate the other children. Ivy responded in a very long video. We're going to play you a couple of parts of it.
Okay, so he always speaking on my sexuality. The whole world know that. And it been about 2 years now that I'll be quiet. I keep quiet on the shit. I wouldn't say nothing. You know, I just go with the flow. I did everything in my power to understand that this is my father, regardless. Like, I'm going to accept him and love him for who he is. So, I just seen he recently did an interview with Carisha, and he used the word contaminating. And putting my siblings in it with that. If you know me, this shit make me so mad. And no matter how you feel, at the end of the day, nigga, I'm your blood. I am your daughter.
She goes on to talk about how she has had issues with her father and had different run-ins with her father over her life, her sexual orientation in the past, but she's never really wanted to speak on them publicly because of the relationship that she wants to have with him and the fact that her other siblings look up to her.
Mm-hmm.
So this hits home for me for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
Number one, I had a very conservative father. He was born 1955, Maryland, Louisiana, small town. And he raised two children, one of which was my sister, who is one of the best people that I know, and who is a lesbian. Okay. She's a person first. My big sister, my beautiful, loving, crazy, aggressive, perhaps criminally insane.
Stop.
Big sister who'll do anything for you, who'll hold you accountable, who'll do all that. And then secondarily, she is a woman who is in love with and really loves women. She loves women a lot. She loves women. Tell you something.
She's married?
Not anymore.
Oh.
But she loves women. As much as my daddy, that Lathan appetite, as much as my daddy loved women, they could have really like kicked it. And I bring her up because I get it. I understand some of the ways that people are and how things go in the South and things that we have to turn our backs on, right? And ways that we have to move forward. It's hard for my dad. It was hard for him to not treat her like his daughter, but it was hard for him to come to terms with it. Like he didn't think it was going to visit his house,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I watched him do, I guess, his best. You'd have to ask Ebony. But he kind of chose if I would ask her, you know what?
Ask her permission before you just
rather than speak for her. I have her saved in my phone as Ellen DeGeneres. Rather than speak for her, let me ask her.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
You been on them hoes lately or what?
a little bit.
Ebony, you're on the podcast before you say anything else. Hi, Ebony.
Oh, shit. Man, why you do that?
Okay.
I told you to tell her. Hi,
Thank
Ebony.
you, Grace. Man, bro.
Okay. I have to ask you a personal question.
Ask me whatever you want, baby.
Okay. What would you say your relationship with Dad was surrounding your sexuality? How did you guys reconcile it? I'm trying to put into context the feeling of watching this happen between two people. And I'm wondering if you're comfortable talking about what your experience with him, we all know he was a pretty conservative guy, like what that was like for you.
I think with Dad for a very long time, it was kind of like an unspoken thing. He knew that I was gay. He didn't like that I was gay. And a situation happened to where we kind of had to talk about it. Another one of our family members kind of got on my Facebook page, and then within 24 hours, the entire Lathan family knew that I was a lesbian. So initially, Dad called me, and he came at it from a biblical perspective, and he said a lot of hurtful stuff. I'm gonna be honest. So I got off the phone with him, and I cried, and he called me back like an hour later, and he apologized. He said, I was raised different. I don't want to see nothing happen to your soul. It's kind of how he was. He said, you're raised to believe that this is what happens. And then hearing that you're like that makes me afraid. But he said he loved me and he apologized, but Going forward, we never talked about it. So there were boundaries that he set that let me know that, hey, I love you and I know this is here, but this is not something that I'm totally accepted. He even called me once and said, hey, I had a dream that, you and Renata were in heaven together. So I think it's going to be okay. But he wasn't big on coming to sit down and eat with my family, right? He wasn't really big on me bringing Renata and the kids to family events. And though I think he tried to love me the best way he could, he never accepted that I was of this community, but he found a way to tolerate it where we could be around each other. But I was never able to talk to him about my life or, oh, this is what's going on, or, hey, this is what's happening, because it's very obvious he didn't want to hear it. Where with mom, it's super open. We could be affectionate. My mom was totally into the kids. Even now, dad, we had our relationship and it was unspoken. It was never discussed. So after the initial conversation was had, there was never another conversation about my sexuality or dating or anything like that.
Do you think that was a decision that was consciously made by the both of you, or would you reach out to him and try to involve him in your life and he didn't want to do it?
I think I tried to involve him by bringing him around to maybe see it being normalized, for him, like in a different way, like it's no different, Daddy. It's going to be different, but he did not want to be around it like that. So I stopped reaching out in that way. I definitely think it was kind of led by him, and I went kind of along with it. Because just being honest with you, like if you don't want to be around, then I don't want you around, right? Not in a terrible way, but I don't want you making anybody uncomfortable. I was living with the woman and raising her kids with her, so it's not like I was like running like I was running in my 20s, I was in a committed relationship and I wanted to show him something differently, but he wasn't open to seeing it differently, honestly. And it hurt a lot. He didn't want to come to the wedding, he didn't, like when we separated, he never, remember you like, hey, let me fly you up. Are you okay? He never said anything. It's like that didn't exist. He knew it was there, but it didn't exist for him.
Last question. Approximately how many women have you slept with, and do you use the strap-on every time?
Ebony, it's been so great talking to you.
It's so great talking to you. Fuck you, Van. You want me to crush you on this podcast. Fuck you. I'm gonna give you what you want. Fuck you.
I love you, baby.
I love you too.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Love you, Rachel.
Love you too.
All right. You're terrible. You're a horrible person.
When you hear that, what do you think?
I'm first off, if I know we just said it, but thank you, Ebony, for being so vulnerable.
Yeah.
And absolutely didn't have to do it, and that was not planned. And I think it's important that you did call her for us not to speak on it, but for someone who's actually experienced it. And hearing her talk is exactly, like how I'm sure Boosie's daughter feels. One, he keeps talking about it, as she keeps saying. She's not trying to bring it up. She's trying to live her life and not make it public and have public opinion, kind of tell her what she should or shouldn't do, or about her relationship with her father and all of that. So I can only imagine how hard that is. But it just really speaks to how deeply rooted homophobia is in our community. I mean, what's been passed down, whether it's through religion or generation, like Boosie says, my father did this, my father did this. And then it also highlights the hypocrisy of this is bad, but as if the other person is walking this straight line that your kids might not. Like Boosie, for example, right? Lyrically, he says some wild stuff. And he's gotten in, there's been some controversial things he said about his son and what he wants to provide for his son at a young age. You know what I'm talking about?
There's no reason to beat around the bush with that.
Well, I
Say
can't
what he
remember
said.
exactly what he said.
What he
That's what I'm
said
saying
was that
about
he
getting his son head or something like
hired a
that.
sex worker to pleasure his son to usher him into manhood.
So if you're going to hold up this, you know, like this standard of, I don't want my kids or my grandkids to be tainted by something, then why doesn't that same thing apply to you? Because of the way you view the queer community versus the lifestyle that you live, as if one is more worse than the other. And I'm just saying, I'm not trying to compare the one life to the other. I'm just saying you're not walking a straight line either, but you think that what you're doing is so much better than what people in the queer community do. And it also highlights this whole notion of whether you think it's a choice or you think you're born this way, which is also something that's deeply rooted in our community. And something Ebony said is what I had also thought about, like I kind of wrote down about this, what Boosie's going through with his daughter. Because they love their children, they don't think that they're being homophobic, right? I love you and I still accept you for you, but I don't accept your lifestyle. That's still homophobic, because hearing Ebony talk about how she couldn't be open about who she is in totality as a person, I'm sure is exactly what Boosie's daughter's going through. You don't get to share your life and your memories and what's going on with you because you have to keep that quiet or still in the closet to respect the wishes of the parent who doesn't agree with it. That's homophobic. And in hearing her talk and also with the situation with Boosie, it's like layered homophobia. It's like because you love, you don't think that what you're doing is offensive because you're like, but I still love my daughter, I still accept her, I'll still be around her. But you won't have dinner with her. You won't, as this Boosie, you won't let them come to the house. You won't let them be around your children. You won't meet the grandchildren. Like that's a problem, as if gayness is something that rubs off on people and not that they're born this way and this is their identity of who they are. And I think also the troubling thing is, I was moved by Ebony saying that your dad was like, had a vulnerable moment of, I'm scared. That was like really vulnerable. But at the same time, in Boosie's situation, it's like there's no desire for him to want to hear his daughter out, learn, grow, or understand who she is as a person. This is what I was taught. This is what I'm choosing to believe, and I don't want to see it any other way. And that's disappointing.
My father's life has been set.
Mm-hmm.
He's gone. I'm not going to shoot him any bail. It's no different. He went at it the same way Boosie did. It's the same thing. That was devastating for me to hear.
Mm.
Man, a couple of days ago on Reddit, on one of the other boards, a post on the Reddit was made, was brought to my attention, where a Redditor goes on there and posts a whole story claiming that he's my brother. He tells the story of his birth mother and asking his birth mother who his father is. And his father, being a man named Terry Lathan from Baton Rouge, him looking for him and then finding out that he died a couple of years ago. And then finding out that I was his son. And then asking the different Redditors whether or not they could help him get in touch with me. That might be bullshit. I doubt it is. From some of the details that were in there, it's likely true. And from other things I know since my father has passed away, it's likely true. I say that to say this. As my father was telling my sister about her soul and what it meant for her to live a godly lifestyle, he was making children outside of his marriage. He was living a life that was completely different than the man that he purported to be when he was around us. I love him. I love every cell of him. It's just the truth. He had 2 Bibles on him at all times. He would religiousize you at the drop of a hat. But the reality is, when it came to his own life, he did whatever he wanted, and he expected everyone else to deal with it, or the other secrets he took to his grave. Why is Van talking so much about his dad? I understand this. These people are from the same place. Boosie's from the same place. I look at that young lady as she was making that video, and I see someone who understands spiritually and intellectually there's no reason why she should have to have any barriers between her and her father. Not one. Not one. When you talk about what God says to do, God says that you love your children and you protect them. It is satanic, in my opinion, and evil. Evil. Evil to put a barrier up between you and your children based upon who they love. There's a barrier. There's a distancing. It makes them unsafe. And then to go on this platform and use that type of language devalues and dehumanizes people who share the same experiences as his daughter, and people who are allies of people like his daughter. And the reality is, as a conversational piece, there is no part of this where we should accept this. That's just how they're raised. Isn't an appropriate response. The Bible isn't an appropriate. This is hateful, wrong, evil, and satanic. And I'm saying one thing right now to anyone that's listening. My father is dead. He can't make that up to her. That feeling that she has about him right now, it exists forever. Forever. Forever, my sister has to live with the fact that it was a part of her that her father could not love. And there are no takebacks. There are no rewinds. There's nothing. That's life. Boosie or whatever other parents that are out there that have children, if you don't want to be a perpetual boogeyman, if you don't want them to have to deal with the evil part of you forever, love your children. Your only job is to love them and protect them, all of them. And if you're doing that, if you're not doing that, you are less than. That ain't gangster. That ain't cool. There's nothing about that us as a community or as a people should accept.
Yeah.
And if you just listen to her and you heard that in her voice, she's got to live with that. So, I don't know. I just think there's a part of this that we've accepted for far too long because we know and love people. Love goes both ways. Contaminate that type of dehumanizing language, all of that, and then put her on blast like that when she's tried to protect you? Nah.
It's interesting you say acceptance. The acceptance should be the other way around.
Right.
We're accepting their problematic behavior, but they're not accepting
We're making
their children for who they are.
I've made excuses for my dad. I've made it, hey, he's from a different time and all of that. His one job was to make sure that he loved his daughter until his dying day, and he didn't do a good enough job. But he did every fucking other thing that he wanted to do. And so does Boosie. I'm not going to, buying your son whores, having all of these different kids out of wedlock. There's not one part of his life that God looks on and smiles. If we're going to do the whole religious thing.
If we're doing the religious
If we're
thing,
going to do
sure.
the whole religious thing. And I don't mean to, for the audience that's listening, I know we have an abundance of viewers who don't share our faith. And when we're talking about, I'm talking about two different things. I'm talking about the contradictory nature of saying that this is about God and then living the type of lifestyle
An
that you
ungodly
live.
life,
But even
yeah.
if you were living it, what this is about is the humanity of the people that we share our community with, how we want them to be seen, protected, and prioritized. what that means and what we have to do.
Too often Christians pick and choose things that they want out of the religion or out of the Bible to fit their lifestyle and to condemn others. We got to stop doing that. We got to stop doing that.
Man, look, man, I got some thoughts and feelings. I'm starting to... Anyway.